somewhere that should be enjoyable in life, but you can't enjoy it because you're not ready for it. That's what I always tell people, that it always looks like other people's life are moving faster. Other people's life are moving slower. He mentioned my story. I graduated at the age of 16 years old. It wasn't that I was smart, I just hated school. I figured the faster I got it done, the faster it could be over with. But the gift that I recognized early in life that I had was the gift of recall, that I could read something, I hear it, and would never have to look at it again. I could memorize it. I didn't know it as a young child, so I found myself being bored while other people was still studying. But it's that gift that brought me full circle into what I do now. And I started thinking about 16 that happened. About 19 years of age, I did what my parents told me not to do and dropped out of school. I later on went back. But dropped out of school, bought my first home, started a real estate company. Then in its first year, we did $2.5 million worth of real estate portfolio. By the age of 24, multiple businesses, just ripping and running. And just like any person that success happens that fast, I recognized something. I was never successful, I just had money. And there's a drastic difference that every person has to recognize, because success is not one size fits all, it's tailor-made. So if you think that you can try on the person next to you success, you'll recognize that it really doesn't fit the way you thought it did. And that's what I learned. I went down to $11.37. I still remember it. It was a sad day. Regions Bank is who I was banking with. And to see yourself at the age of 21 being able to have liquid over 6 figures, which is from the city I'm from, Panama City. If you can buy a Waffle House meal, you bought it. You got it. You got it. But to go from that at such a young age to $11.37, I had to do a life inventory to figure out who was I outside of those things. And life is going to do what my mother also taught me. The second thing she taught me while learning how to pack. The first is you pack for where you're going. The second thing she taught me is this. I used to do that thing where you got a bag full of stuff, you try to hurry up and grab new stuff and put it in the bag. You just throw it in there. You know what I'm saying. You throw all your stuff in the bag. And she'll say, before you can pack, you have to unpack. Because some stuff you might need to reuse and you might have to wash it first. That's what I wanted to show you. When we talk about Black history, there's a whole bag full of history of hundreds of years, whether we talk about the Emancipation Proclamation, when we talk about the history of all the people that's gone before us. We can look at tons of principles and concepts and life examples. But before we can use the bag of principles, we've got to unpack the pain that comes along with that awkwardness when we mention things that make us all uncomfortable. How do you unpack that enough for us all to look at it in a neutral position and understand it from each other's perspective? All right, so let me give you examples. I'm speaking examples. So if I were to turn my back to y'all, which is terrible speaking at y'all, if I were to turn my back to you, only way you can see my face is if you were standing over here. This is kind of how history works. The only way you can see it, typically, is if someone walks around it long enough to explain it to you, but if you only hear their point of view, it's hard for you to grasp it. Does that make sense to you? Whenever we're unpacking the bag of history, we have to unpack it in a neutral position to be able to feel it, so we can all sit down, enjoy popcorn, and really hear the story, but not just hearing it. Because if you just hear information, you can't grasp that concept and live that out. You're just hearing something that goes in one ear and out of the other, and you won't know where to apply it. So it's kind of like I tell people all the time. You can't get excited about information. And they're like, how is that possible? How you come to a college and say you can't get excited about information? It's this reason I say this. If I were to say for everyone that is here when I leave, please, please, make sure I have your contact information. I have $1 million for you at the hotel. Thank you. Have a great night. No matter how excited you are about that information, you don't know what hotel I'm staying in. So information by itself is not excitement. It's only when you know where to apply it at. And that's typically what happens with life. If you're going to unpack the bag of history, like my mother taught me, such a smart lady, you have to figure out what memories of the past can we wash off and repack in our bag to go through our journey of life with. And what things do we just discard and realize that it's out of season, we shouldn't use it anymore? What words should we stop using? What memories, what things can we channel to be better at what we do? Who can we connect to learn or broaden our experience that can explain to us what we really can't see? I hope this makes sense to you. I hope you feel my heart, because I want to just walk you through some of my historical heroes. And there's so many of them, but I'm only going to pick 2. Really, I guess I'll say 3. And then this one that this honorable mention should be mentioned. The first one is Howard Thurman. He said something that every time I hear it, I can't even hear it without getting passionate about it. He said, don't ask what the world needs. Ask what makes you come alive. Because what the world needs is those that have come alive. So my question is, have you come alive? And when I ask that, people are like, of course, I'm breathing. But no, I'm talking about most people live life on what I call the walking dead. I'll explain what the walking dead is. The walking dead is that person, you walk into their place of business, they turn every organization into a cemetery. Wherever they work, they immediately, you walk in, you're having a fairly great day, and you say, excuse me, can you tell me where I can find Al-Nye? They just turn your great mood into, because they died years ago in spirit because they started doing something they wasn't passionate about. And they said, I'm only going to do it for a month. I'm only going to do it for a week. And a week turned into 3 months away from retirement. And years ago, they laid their dreams down. They laid the history of what they wanted to do. They threw away their future. And they're living as the walking dead, that they're existing, but they haven't come alive. So my question is, you're in school, I understand it, but have you come alive? Have you found that nebulous, indescript thing that nobody understands, you can't put into words, but you know when you find it, you feel at home? Have you come alive in that place? That's what, when I talk to the audience, what I'm doing now, I've come alive. This is the thing that you can wake me up out of my sleep at 4 in the morning. Please don't tap me or pull me too hard. But if you woke me up, I could do this in my sleep. I could do this on autopilot because this is what I do. And I think everybody has to find something in your life that you do so well you struggle with humility. That you struggle with because you know you're good at it. It's the truth that you struggle with where you battle between I know and thank you. It's a struggle when they say, oh, you killed it. Thank you. That's what you got to be so good at. I want you to be that great at whatever you do. If you do hair, if you're a doctor, if you're a nurse, if you're a general practitioner, if you're a construction worker, you ride by the building you constructed and say, whoa, look at that building. You got to find that thing. That even if nobody else can understand it, you get it. Have you come alive? You cannot fall asleep at the wheel of life and think you end up at your destination.